People are still filtering in, but we're going to get started in the interest of time. Everybody has a certain bedtime or thing that they maybe want to get home for. But we don't want to shortchange the process either. Well, first, welcome to the 2016 Candidate Forum. It's kind of like a town hall meeting for city council seats in the position of mayor. It's hosted by the Buckhannon-Upshur Chamber of Commerce, the Record Delta, and West Virginia Wesleyan College Student Senate. My name is Keith Buchanan. I'll be moderating tonight's event. Before we get started, as you came in, each of you were given an opportunity or a yellow card. It's a question card. I would suggest if you're going to ask a question through me, that if you finish completing card, please raise your hand, and our Student Senate people will come by and pick them up. The questions are then given to our panel. They'll make sure they sort through them to make sure they're not duplicated. You do have to put your name on it. If your occupation is there, if you're a student, that's fine, but you have to put your name on it for it to be considered. And then throughout the evening, they'll be bringing those questions to me, and we'll intersperse them with some prepared questions that the panel has developed. There are also refreshments that are outside. It's okay to bring in water or something, and we'll be taking a break at intermission tonight, and I'll explain when that's going to occur. So here we are in the chapel. You know, it's pretty fitting. If you think about the city of Buckhannon and the relationship that it has with West Virginia Wesleyan College and what we hope that town and gown relationship would be, this is really the place to start, and we're very glad that they have allowed us to use this space. And here we are before the eyes of God to allow you to hear from the candidates. So the outcomes for tonight's forum, first, is to engage a diverse group of citizens, stakeholders, that's all of you, in the local political process. The second outcome is to provide information and education about the people and the positions that they're running for. Also to talk about key issues and opportunities. And finally, allow the candidates to create awareness for who they are and what they stand for. Before we talk about tonight's format, I would like to say that each of the candidates has chosen to be viewed in the public eye and the scrutiny that goes along with that, especially in a small town. It takes a certain amount of courage or fortitude for them to do that throughout the election process, and it continues on if elected to office. And for that commitment that each of them is willing to make, I think an appropriate beginning to this forum is to show our appreciation and respect to all of them for that endeavor. All right, here's the format for tonight's event. We have a total of 16 candidates running for office. A few have been unable to attend tonight, but we have 4 candidates running for a 2-year term for City Council. We have 8 running for a 4-year term for City Council and 4 mayoral candidates. Now, what we're going to do to break that up, instead of having 16 people paraded up here, is first we'll bring up the 2-year term candidates, followed by the mayoral candidates. Once we've had a chance to have questions asked and exchanged, we'll take a short break, refreshments in the back, come on back up front, and then we'll follow that with the 4-year candidates. Each candidate will be asked questions, so that's kind of like the town hall format. This isn't a debate. And the list of questions has been prepared by our panel, as well as questions that come in from the audience. Now, these questions weren't developed in a basement somewhere and figured out how we're going to zing somebody. All of our questions came from what's in the paper, what's in the media, what has already been out there over the last year, and more importantly, as recently as last week. These are issues and opportunities being discussed in the public forum. So if you haven't heard them, you'll be hearing about some of those tonight. Now, the responses to the questions, the candidates will have 1 minute. And at that time, a student will be holding up a little placard. One color, I believe, is blue, followed by red. That means you've got 5 seconds left to wrap up. We're not going to have an orchestra playing to tell you when it's time, but 1 minute for each candidate. Now, in the event a candidate would like to respond to another candidate's position, if they have a different position, they can do so. However, they will forfeit a question later in the round, and the reason is simple. We want to give each candidate approximately 4 questions to ask over the course of the evening, and give them all an opportunity to tell you why they're the best candidate for the job. So if we have too many responses going back and forth, we may have one person that has 16 responses in FaceTime and another person have 3 or 4. So our goal for tonight is to try to be as even-handed as possible. All the candidates asked about the same number of questions. And again, if there is a candidate that wants to respond to another candidate's position, they may do so, but they will lose or forfeit the question that might have been asked later on. In other words, if you got 4 questions, you got 4 questions. Okay, so we're going to get started. Is everybody clear on that? If you're filling out your questions and they're complete, please raise your hand. And over the course of the evening and after the intermission, if you want to ask a question, you can still do so. Now, we've got a limit. I don't know how many questions will come in, but we want to make sure that we bring up a representative sample. So we have maybe 13 people here tonight. Hopefully, we'll have at least 13 audience questions that will be asked. So let's get the first group up here, running for the 2-year seats on City Council. I'll introduce each one and ask that they come up on stage at this time. Dave Thomas, Robin Riggs Simons, Robert Osborne, and Charles Linger. If you're going to sit next to Dave when they bring up that green card that says it's opportunity, you just want to let him know. I'll try to keep my eye on that. Thanks. Hello, Robert. Hi, Robert. Hi, Charles. Hey, excuse me. Can everybody see Dave, or would it be better if we move him down? Yeah, Dave, would you move to the left? That'd be better. It's not important you see me. I'm trying to stay hidden in the corner here. Brian, if you have some questions over there and you want to bring a few up, that would be great. We need at least 3. Okay, in no particular order, but I will start down the list of questions. And the first question will be for Dave Thomas. Dave, what do you feel is the most important issue facing the city of Buckhannon, and what is your solution?
I think there's lots of issues, and one of the things I think we need to really take a strong look at is come together with a plan, short-term and long-term goals and objectives that are measurable. But we have a lot of challenges for the city. I'm very concerned about the drug issues, as everybody else has been talking about recently, but we have other things too that we have to deal with. But I think embracing the community and working out with town hall meetings and focus groups such as the chamber and commission and school board and development authority, all the different components that are really critical. And West Virginia Wesleyan is a very important component of that also. Thank you.
Thank you, David. The next question is for Robert Osborne. I guess we're going down the row here. Just worked out that way. Would you replace the B&O tax, which hits just certain businesses, with a broader-based sales tax that would be paid by virtually anyone buying a good or service in the city?
That's a good question, actually. When I think about the B&O tax as it stands right now, I don't necessarily think it's fair, because I think if you're going to tax businesses, everybody should be taxed fairly. So I don't know that I really am in favor of the B&O tax as it sits right now. With the 1% sales tax, the only way that I would be for a 1% sales tax is if it had a specific use. You know, if we're going to say, if we have this 1% sales tax, we're going to pave all the city streets and fix all the sidewalks, then I might be open to listening to that tax. But just to put a 1% sales tax on the people and let it go into a general fund that you don't know where your tax money's going, I disagree with that, because I think as citizens, we all need to know what our tax money is being spent on. So for the 1% tax, if it went to something specific that's going to help the infrastructure of Buchanan, I would be in favor of that.
Thank you, Robert. Robin Riggs Simons. A multi-million-dollar recreational complex has been proposed along Brushy Fork Road. Do you support that project, and what do you see as the city's role in building and maintaining such a facility?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question. There's such an echo in here.
Okay, I'm sorry. A multi-million-dollar recreational complex has been proposed along Brushy Fork Road. Do you support the project, and what do you see the city's role is in building and maintaining that project?
Well, yes, I support the project, but I would like to put it before the voters and have the vote, the citizens' opinion on whether they would want to financially support it or not. I believe that such a complex would help keep our drug problem down. Children would be busy out there playing, having sports. We could have classrooms for tutors. We could even have, for children that have been in drugs, we could have rehab classes. It would be a great place for the whole family to get together, to spend quality time together, and I think it would be a wonderful thing, but I would like for the city to put it up to a vote for the voter to decide if they would like to financially support it or not.
Thank you, Robin. The next question goes back to Robert Osborne. How do you feel about the new animal control ordinance?
I think the new animal control ordinance, it has some good and it has some bad. I believe that if people are going to have pets, they need to take care of their pets. They need to pick up after their pets, which is a major problem. And I don't believe that if you're going to have a pet, you should mistreat it. You shouldn't leave it outside in cold weather for long periods of time. You know, if you're going to have a pet, you need to take care of your pets. So I think overall it is a good ordinance to have. I think at times it's going to be a little hard to enforce. And I don't really like ordinances that we can't enforce as a city. So I think, you know, if the city's going to have ordinances like that, they need to have a full-time ordinance enforcer to go enforce some of these ordinances, because I don't believe in just passing ordinances to pass them. But this bill does have some good to it, and I think it will help people take more care of their pets and better care of their pets, and there are some teeth in it if they don't.
Thank you. The next question comes from our audience, from Mr. Russell Murray, who says he's retired. That's a great occupation. What are your plans? This is to Dave. What are your plans for increasing employment opportunities in our area?
Boy, that's a great question, but I'm not sure I have the solution to that. I think the start of that was the creation of the Economic Development Authority, which is a partnership with the County Commission and the City of Buchanan, and also the state helps support that, to try to encourage businesses to either locate here or to add employees as their business grows. I think one of the, my first answer to the first question was to come to grips with the partnerships that we have within this community, and what quality of life do we want to enhance for the future and make this town extremely attractive. I mean, it's attractive now, but we still have a lot of work to do that. So we need to try to really develop a quality of life here that's attractive to people, and work with the state and the county and the different organizations to try to get employment here. Very quickly, 5 seconds? Okay. I'll talk about this at my last, when I have 1 minute to go at the end. But it's a good question and it's very difficult.
Thank you, David. A similar question along the same lines for Robin, and I hope it's okay if I use your first names while we're up here.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thanks. West Virginia is suffering from an economic model as a state that lacks diversity with a heavy reliance on the energy sector and dwindling severance taxes, while over 50% of jobs are either state or federal employees. While the picture in Upshur County and the city of Buchanan looks brighter, what do you feel we need to do to attract, retain, and develop a more diverse portfolio of businesses?
I see there's so much echo here. I have problems hearing that. I'm sorry. That's a long one, too.
I think the audience heard it, so I'll come over and tell you.
Yeah.
Robin, West Virginia is suffering from an economic model that lacks diversity, with a heavy reliance on the energy sector, dwindling severance taxes, and over 50% of our jobs are either state or federal employees. While the picture in Upshur County and city of Buchanan looks brighter, what do you feel we need to do to attract, retain, and develop a more diverse portfolio of businesses?
I believe to attract more businesses, which will, of course, make diversity, we have to look at a variety of issues. We have to make sure we have good schools for families moving here. We have to make sure we have good roads, easy access in and out. We have to be able to give possible tax cut incentives for moving here. We have to make sure there's quality housing for anyone that wants to move here. I think it's a whole package, and we have to make Buchanan the place people want to come. We have to make Buchanan the place that not only businesses want to come, and their families, that the children have to be able to grow and live here as well. So it's one big package, and I believe that we can work on that and do it.
Thank you, Robin. The next question, I'm trying to keep track of these, so everybody's a fair amount of them. The next question comes from the audience. It's from Christopher Scott, and this is for Robert Osborne. Robert, you mentioned in your bio that you want a debt-free city but also not raise taxes. How do you plan to do that?
If you look at the economics of our city over the last 4 years, they've had about $1.4 to $1.5 million in excess over those years. Right now, the city has $1.8 million in debt. So I would like to see a lot of that excess money, and it's not really excess because it's money the taxpayers are paying, but I would like to see a lot of that money go to pay down our debt. Because if you think about it, if Buchanan could say it was a debt-free city, what could we do with that extra money? That's $600,000 that's sitting there this year, the almost $1 million, I believe, last year. How many roads could be paved? How many sidewalks can be paved? You know, if we didn't have to spend a lot of that money on debt. So I believe that debt could be taken down just by allotting a lot of this excess money to pay down the debt. You know, Salem recently came out and said they're debt-free. I would love to see Buchanan in that same situation.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Dave, you mentioned as part of what you said were some of the priorities, something to do with the drug problem in this area. And this question also comes from the audience. It's a two-part question, so I'll give you a minute and 20 seconds. Which position do you feel most aligned with in dealing with what we all know is a drug problem? A, illegal drug users and suppliers are criminals and should be prosecuted as such, with stricter laws, sufficient law enforcement, and tools we can reduce the current epidemic of drug use in our community. Or B, illegal drug users and addicts are afflicted by disease and addiction. We cannot arrest or prosecute away the drug problem in our community. As a city government, we should investigate ways to support and rehabilitate people in these programs.
Can I have 3 or 4 minutes? Well, I was shocked when Christine Bennett, last council meeting, said there were 400 and some students, youth in our town that were having some real issues and had to have a structure. My son spent 30 days in jail because he had to face the penalties that he needed to do. He violated parole. He delivered his third child 4 weeks ago, and he's an emergency room nurse. So people, there is hope out there. We have to have rehabilitation. I think we have to be very strict on those offenders that are violent, but we need rehabilitation. I mean, I don't have a solution to this. If I did, it'd be phenomenal. But we have to work together. And I'll have to tell you very quickly, I read a National Geographic article last June on marijuana. There's 500 different varieties of marijuana, and we're just now seeing the potential medicinal benefits for that. But we had a stigma against all kind of indigestion, I can't speak. 10 seconds, okay, thank you. We have to take a look at multiple solutions. We really have not identified how we're going to deal with that yet, but we've got to come together as a society. It's very, very difficult. Thanks.
Thank you, David. Next question. This goes to Robin. Late last year, City Council considered giving raises to the elected positions. Do you feel the council, mayor, and city recorder should be paid more?
Well, that could be according to who you talk to, but since you asked me, I would tell you that I did not run for council for the compensation. They are paid we are paid on council $200 a month for no matter how many meetings we attend. That could be 2, or that could be 20. So it hasn't been a raise for a while, and some feel that they deserve it and should have it. Myself, I'm not interested in a raise, and I really don't care if we have one or not. So my answer would be no, I don't support it.
All right, thank you. Next question, we have 2 each that will be asked, and then a final question of each of the candidates. This one goes to Robert Osborne. Some of your responses earlier were about what you'd do if you had about $600,000 laying around. So how about this? Prioritize the top 3 infrastructure issues you feel the city of Buchanan needs to address.
If I'm looking at the top 3 infrastructure, I think number 1 and number 2 kind of go hand in hand, but number 1 would be some of the sidewalks in high traffic areas. You know, when I look at downtown and I see a lot of people with canes and a lot of elderly walking downtown, you know, there are so many trip hazards, and I see so many people fall, and they get up, they dust themselves off, and they go on. Over by the high rise, which has a high population of walkers over there, those sidewalks over there are just horrible. There's some sticking up 8 inches, you know, apart. So I would say probably sidewalks in those high traffic areas would be number 1. Number 2 would be the streets. You know, our streets are horrible, especially when there's more to our town than Main Street. When you start to get away from Main Street, the streets get worse and worse. And number 3, I would just like to see our town cleaned up. You know, if you walk around our city, there's areas where there's a lot of trash and different things like that. And I think I'd like to see some of that money spent to just clean up our town and make it more presentable to those coming in.
Thank you, Robert. David, this will be the last formatted question, and then the candidates will all be asked the same final question. Remember, this is a job interview. David, Buchanan tried to change the city charter previously, but it failed in a citywide election. Do you feel the charter needs to be updated, and why?
Well, I think that, yes, I do think it needs to be taken a look at. There are some things in the city charter that are no longer relevant. I think we should have some town hall meetings to discuss what are the pros and the cons, the positives and negatives, and can we be a better town, even better than we are today, with looking at the charter to see what needs to be changed for the future. I don't think there's anything specifically. One thing I would take a look at maybe is, do we need term limits? I don't want to be a hypocrite, but I guess I am by running again. But one of the reasons why I did is I think we need term limits. consecutive term limits. You don't want to have people there for X, Y, Z years. You want to have some change, different thoughts, and so forth. But there are a lot of other issues that need to be looked at. But we need to do it in an atmosphere where we have people coming together, say what is positive for the future if we do this. And maybe we don't need to do it, but I think we ought to get input from a town hall meeting for something like that.
Well, thank you. And some of the questions are coming in from the audience in just that format, and I think that's what Dave is talking about. It's really including all of you as constituents and stakeholders in the community. The last question that will be asked of all candidates in each of the different groups is, what do you stand for? What's your platform? And why do you feel you're the best candidate for this job? I do want to mention that Charles Linger was unable to attend. I don't think everybody knows his nickname, but it's okay if I say it, Wimpy. But I saw him Friday night. He said he didn't know if he's going to be able to attend, but he said he would try. In any case, he said to say hello to everybody. And don't forget about Wimpy Linger. Okay, so last question. I'll repeat it. What do you stand for, and why do you feel you're the best candidate for City Council? Robin.
Yeah, thank you for asking that. I stand for common sense in city government. I stand for infrastructure, infrastructure, infrastructure. We have to maintain our what we already have, our streets, our sidewalks, our water plant, everything that we have to continue to maintain it. We have the best water plant in the whole state of West Virginia. People come from far away in West Virginia to come and look at it. I'm proud of that. I think we have a way to go with keeping our roads up, but we are working on them. We have 2 paving projects this summer, and we have to use common sense. We have to maintain our what we have now. If you take care of what you have, it'll take care of you. I think I'm the best person for the job because I'm open, I have common sense, and I will stand up for you as for what you want. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Same question. Robert.
Well, one of the first things I think we as a city need to do is we need to attack our drug problems. We can't simply be reactive, we got to be proactive. And the first part of that is getting a really good understanding of what's causing the drug problems in our area. You know, that could be talking to former addicts, people who have went through that. You know, a lot of people don't understand. They say, oh yeah, we have a drug problem, but what are you going to do about it? How does it start? What do those people feel? What do they think? How can we help them? That's one of the major things that we got to do. We got to attack that. Secondly, I think that we need to engage our youth a lot more than we do. You know, we need to give our youth something to do. You know, they're graduating high school and they're getting out of town because there's nothing here. So we need to take a serious, hard look at how to keep our youth engaged and how to keep them staying around so they don't leave town. And third, like Robin said, is infrastructure. We need roads, we need sidewalks, and we need them bad. And we just need to take care of the tax people's money, and we need to make sure that they know where it's going and put it to the best use we possibly can. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Dave, same question. What do you stand for, and why are you the best candidate for the job?
I think I'm the most qualified candidate from the standpoint that I've been here almost 32 years. I came in as a financial officer for West Virginia Wesleyan College, and I'm willing to deal with difficult issues. Sometimes people call me a disruptor, but I really want to know what's going on. I believe in transparency, as people have heard before, and I believe in a level playing field. But we have a lot of challenges, and we have to ask difficult questions, and sometimes that makes individuals feel uncomfortable. But I'm willing to do that, and I'm willing to have people ask me those difficult questions. But this town is phenomenal. I've been here almost 32 years. The college is a phenomenal asset, and we're a college town. Can you imagine what Buchanan would be without West Virginia Wesleyan College here? We need to have partnerships with the college, with the county commission, with the development authority, the school board. Let's work together. That's really critical. It makes people uncomfortable, but that's what we need to do. I think I'm qualified to do that. Thank you. And by the way, it's Raman Simon's birthday today.
Okay. So we do have a little bit of group participation, so
how old she was.
I'll start the song. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Robin. Make something. Happy birthday to you. Okay, before we introduce the next group, which will be our mayoral candidates, how about one more final round of applause for our candidates? We have 4 candidates running for mayor. One of them was unable to attend tonight, Rick Edwards, so we'll have 3 people up on the stage. And I'll introduce them and ask them to please come up at this time. David McCauley, Michael Calgar, and Michael Bodner. Thanks for coming. David, thank you for coming.
Good evening, everybody.
Hey. Mr. Bodner. Oh, back to you. Wow, lots of great audience questions, and there are enough for at least one each for each of you. Okay. The first question goes to Michael Bodner. Michael, I know this was asked before, but it's a very relevant question. What do you feel is the most important issue facing the city of Buchanan, and what is your solution?
There's more than one issue, actually. We've got to get the river cleaned out, especially downriver. There's a lot of trees backing the water up, and if we get a flood, we're going to be in trouble. Second, I'd like to find out from somebody why everybody in Buchanan is dying of cancer. The state health department says that we're the cancer capital of West Virginia. I'd like to figure out why we're the cancer capital and see what we can do about it. Everybody jokes and says it's the water. Well, we don't know. They say the water's clean. But years ago upriver, there used to be a plant that produced alcohol, and they dumped their residue in the river. And there was also, before that, a plant up there that produced pitchblende, which is the raw form of uranium. That was back during World War I. And there's a couple of places you can still actually go up there and take a Geiger counter, and it will bounce off the wall. We had the government in here in the early 60s checking on it. They were here about 3-4 days and left, and we never heard another word about it.
Okay. Thank you. Your time is up. And the student is right down there from Student Center. In case you want to know, she's right down there in the front row. Pardon me?
I replied to this.
Okay, so the rules around this is if a candidate wants to respond to another candidate's question, that's fine. He will just forfeit a question later on in the round, because I'm going to try to ask everybody 4 questions so that everyone has an equal amount of airtime, including the final question. If you want to respond, that's fine.
Thank you, and good evening, everybody. I agree that we have some health issues and that the river does need to be cleaned up. But we also would like to have a nice recreational park. But we can't do a lot of things with little money. To me, the key issue is to provide jobs. In order to have jobs, we need to encourage businesses to expand and move here. And with the drug issues that we have, it is affecting our workforce. We need to address the drug issue. We need to work at creating jobs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. The next question goes to David McCauley. David, what is your vision for the city of Buchanan, and how would it serve to attract and retain new business talent, entrepreneurs, those kind of things that make our city an even more vibrant and attractive place to existing and new generations.
Well, thanks, Keith, and thanks to everybody who's out here tonight. Thanks to the Chamber, the Delta, and College for hosting this outstanding event. I think this is sort of a quilt kind of a question. This is a sort of a blend of being able to generate new jobs, fix the problem that we have. It's a statewide phenomenon where we're losing our youth. More people are moving away from West Virginia than any state in the United States right now, pro rata. We need to retain youth. We need to have jobs for those people, to put them to work, to keep them here. And the way that we're going to generate some of these jobs to address this issue is through addressing the drug problem. I don't know if you've had anybody in your family who you've needed to turn to find some rehab help for. You got to go to Charleston or Morgantown. We can do that here. We can create those jobs relative to the drug problem, relative to retirement, certified retirement community, and I'll talk more about that since I'm out of time at the end.
You'll get another chance, David. Next question comes from the audience, and it's from, looks like Will Wasson, close. Student, okay, Wesleyan student. And this is a question for the mayoral candidate. How do you feel your experience will assist you in being the mayor for a city in which a college is such a vital part? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, it is to you, Mike. I'm sorry.
All right, thank you. I thought
Gee,
we
I
were
missed
all
that
going to
one.
get a chance.
I was
to do
looking
that.
at him, and I forgot to call him by name.
Well, I grew up in Buchanan, between here and downtown, and the college has always been an important part in my life, and it's helped make me the person I am today. I actually graduated here in 1981. The college is a big employer. How many students do we have here that are registered to vote as Buchanan voters? Do we have anybody? Okay. Well, I'm glad to see the student body is involved and interested in local politics. And we need to continue our relationship with the college. We also have a great hospital facility here that's getting ready to expand. And we have other business opportunities on the horizon. But the college is a very important part. Thank you.
Just trying to stay organized. All right, let's see. Here's one from the over 60 crowd. I went down and dropped an invitation off to the senior center, but not because I did that. I believe they're a vital part of our community, and there's also a large segment of our population, like me, over 60. So this question comes from Robin Keogh, and this goes to Dave McCauley. Please highlight any improvements in the city that have occurred during your term. That doesn't work. Okay, sorry about that. Sometimes you got to read the whole question. All right, oops. Here's a question for a mayoral candidate. In case of a prolonged power outage in the city, county, or state, and that's something that elderly folks really worry about, what would be your preliminary steps to caring and providing for our community?
I think it's another matter of partnering with the local churches. This is also an opportunity for us to fully avail of ourselves of the public safety complex. That would be a gathering point that has generators with the electricity would go out. The derecho that we had 3 or 4 years ago is a good indication of the problems that befall us when that happens. So I think we need to come together as a community and have these backup plans, these gathering spots for an emergency like that. Churches, public safety complex. I'm sure that the Development Authority and the Chamber would weigh in with those kinds of things. Any of these problems that might be identified, we really need to have public input, bring everybody together, figure out what we would do to manage a crisis. We've dealt with other crises here before, like the '85 flood, other events like that in recent years and decades. So it's all about how we partner together and be proactive instead of reactive.
Okay, David, thank you. The next question goes to Michael Bodner. Michael, can you think of one major area where the city and the county need to work more closely together to bring needed change to the place that we live?
That's a big question. Needed change. The children are all leaving. We should try and figure out some way to keep them here, try to get business to come into Buchanan. Unfortunately, a lot of them are going to different states. And I think as far as the dope and everything, we've had an increase in that in the past couple of years. But I think if we can figure out some way to get some more business in here, that we'll be able to hold people back and keep them in Buchanan.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Next question for Michael Calgar. Is the current mayoral form of government in the city of Buchanan the best format, or would a city manager format be better?
Thank you. I was on the committee 4 years ago whenever the city looked at changing the charter. And it's apparent that there's a lot of things in the charter that needs to be updated. But it's also apparent that the citizens do not want a change in government, in the form of government. The real problem is that we don't have qualified people who have any business experience, and some in cases any integrity to run for office. And if you watch the national elections and some of the things that go on locally, you can understand why. So I think that the form of government is up to the people. I do think that the charter needs to be updated in terms of specific laws related to horse racing down Main Street, things of that nature. Thank you.
Okay, great. The next question comes from Jane Redcliffe, who says she's retired. That's not really true. But at any rate, Jane would like to know, David, how do you feel about encouraging annexation of our area out of town? And do you have any plans on doing that? And if so, when, if you were elected?
Thanks, and thanks for the question, Jane. I didn't know you'd ask it, but I know a little bit about annexation. During my more than 32 years as city attorney, I facilitated a dozen different annexations, and the city of Buchanan went from 800 square acres to the more than 1,900 square acres that exist today. So we almost 2.5 times the size of Buchanan during my tenure as city attorney. That wasn't me just doing that. We had supportive mayors and city councils that affected these things. I think the big challenge that we have with future annexations would be showing those folks in the outlying areas what the city brings to the table. You need more fire hydrants, you need paved streets, you need storm drains put in. We're in that business. It's what we do. We're the only show in town when it comes to those kinds of things. But we have to show those folks who are in those areas to be annexed that we're going to dedicate those tax dollars to solving their problems first. And I would propose a moratorium on any other use of those funds except to make those improvements in those annexed areas.
Thank you, David. The next question goes to Michael Calgar. Michael, the city has its own plan and has resources for infrastructure and services and controls many of the outcomes in the city. At the same time, there are a number of groups emerging that are bringing new ideas to our city, including Create Buchanan, Community Theater, Arts Alliance, Arts 26201, and others that are working independently and often together to bring change and value. As mayor, how would you bring those groups together to work with the city behind common ideas and harness their combined energy?
A question from someone in the audience?
Yes.
Okay. And it was?
No, I'm sorry. That was a question from the panel.
Oh, well, that's a great point, that we have a lot of people who have given a lot of their lives and continue to do so in various organizations to make our community a better place to live, to work, and obviously to visit. The Strawberry Festival coming up, I'm excited about that. I'm sure you all too. That's one of the organizations that has a funding issue right now, and they're looking at new ways of providing funding since state funding has been cut. And if you have not heard about their membership drive, I would encourage each of you that enjoy the Strawberry Festival to consider becoming a member. It's an annual membership for $25. But in reference to the question, again, it's like bringing people to the table and having the social skills to talk with people. There is no right answer, but there is a right way of doing things. And by getting everyone together and talking about their ideas and get the community involved in city government, that's the key. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. We have 3 more questions. We'll ask the candidates and individual questions, and then I'll have the final question. This is for Michael Bodner. Some people think the mayor's job is signing proclamations, appearing in photo opportunities, and presiding over city council meetings. And of course, we know it's more than that. But what do you think is the single most important role of the mayor of Buchanan?
I think that the mayor of Buchanan is head of the council and the city itself, and that he sort of keeps everything in order. And by changing a lot of rules and regulations that have been in the books for years, we should probably stick with the old-fashioned way. I think it works a lot better in the long run.
Thank you. David, how would you describe the town and gown relationship between the city and Wesleyan, and what would you do to improve it?
Keith, the city and Wesleyan have been steadfast partners going all the way back to the 1940s and 50s when J.D. Hinkle Sr. was mayor of Buchanan. Served on our board of trustees while he was mayor. His son, J.D. Hinkle Jr., similar kind of a thing. When I was president of the Lions Club back in the mid-'80s, we had the J.D. Hinkle Jr. Memorial Basketball Tournament right after J.D. died, and he set the table for that partnership that has long resulted in the prospering of our community with that partnership. So how do we partner now? So many ways. Stockert Youth Center, the River Trail. 3 years ago, we had a near catastrophic failure with our sanitary system when a line fell down off of Factory Street and Railroad Avenue. City went to the college, asked for property to put in a pump station. It happened like that. Now, does that mean that things are perfect? No. There are issues that we can do to strengthen that relationship, including some of the property maintenance things that people have cited that's part of the campus. Campus is growing quickly. We can handle that.
Thanks. It's kind of dark up here. It's hard to see that little green card. Last question, Mike Calgar. There's been a lot of negative campaigning, including billboards, Facebook squabbles, divisive rhetoric in this campaign. And if elected, how will you bring people together to get the work of the city done?
Well, first of all, there has been a lot of negative discussions, and I'm sad to see that at both the national, state, and unfortunately local level. The thing is that it's time to stop pointing fingers at failures of the past, come together as a community, and work together to look at the issues and provide some path forward. That's critical. So we need to just drop what's happened in the past and move on. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, here's the last question, and again, it's like a job interview. The final question is what you'd get if you were talking to your employer who's out there. And the question is, what do you stand for? So what's your platform, and why are you the best person for the job of mayor? Now, I do want to say that when these booklets were put together, that you all have, some of the bios made it to us on time. Sometimes it was trying to communicate with people. There were a few people that didn't get that bio in, and so they have an option, if they would like, to answer this final question by providing you with that bio, and that's their option. And so let me start with Michael Bodner. What do you stand for? What's your platform? And why are you the best person for the job of mayor?
Well, I guess because I'm a little bit old-fashioned, and being a Republican, I mean, that's today doesn't mean a whole lot. But in all honesty, if you want to come to City Hall, if I'm in there and argue and fuss, you're more than welcome to. The doors are opened. It's supposed to be public. If the door's not open, I'm sure you can kick it open and give me hell. And if you need my phone number, you can have that too.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Same question to Michael Calgar.
Thank you. The city is really a business. It's providing a service to the customers, and you all are the customers. What we need as a mayor is someone that has the business experience to run the city as a business, and that's why the charter refers to that position in that way. As a business person, I own Eagle View Consulting and Support Services, which I started a couple years ago. Before that, I spent 20-some years as a government contractor for companies such as BAE Systems, Northrop Grumman, and Quinetics, which is a worldwide company, and I served in technical management roles. I've also been a consultant for Motorola and for Daimler Chrysler. Unfortunately, my bio information didn't make it to the program tonight, and I've already contacted my staff, and they're in the process of uploading that on my website. So if you'd like to read my bio, it's on www.calgarformayor.com. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Dave McCauley, same question.
Mike and I get along smashingly, so don't take any umbrage with my separating myself a little bit from some of his comments. The city is not a business. The city is here to provide essential services. We don't have shareholders, we have owners, and the owners are the people in our community. It's your money. We need to make that money, whether it's taxes or fees, work the best we possibly can for you all, providing those essential services. Clean water, sewage, waste collection, police, fire protection, and some of the other things that we do pretty well too, like maintaining the parks and our cemetery and the library and the Stockert Youth Center. When you think about everything that happens in your life, that the federal government does for you, that the state government does for you, that your local government does for you, probably 90% of those things that really matter are done right here at the local level. So I think I'm best positioned with my 33-year association with the city to lead us into this next period of time. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Next we'll take a short intermission. Our refreshments outside. If you need to bring in a bottle of water, you may do so. If you want to write a question and you haven't had time to do so, please, that'll be an opportunity. Raise your hand. One more final round of applause for our two-year candidates. Okay, folks. At this time, we have 8 people running for the 4-year term of City Council. And I'll ask them to come up as people are filtering back in. I have almost 8 questions from the audience. That's pretty cool. Maybe 7. Okay, so the final group running for 4-year term, and I'll call them out, and please come up. Pam Kapari, Ron Pugh, John Waltz, C.J. Rylands, Robbie Skinner, Joe Shaw, and Caden Calgar. Maria Bray was unable to attend. She had a scheduling conflict. And if you look at the ballot of these 8 candidates, citizens can vote for 3. Sure. Oh, I will. I'll do my best. Let me drag myself farther back here into the shadows. That'll work. All right. I'm looking at you sideways. All right. Well, we're going to start with the first one from Dustin Zikafus. And this will be for, first one up on the list is Pam Kapari. Pam, what is your position on the Development Authority's request? And this is something that happened very recently, so that, you know, it's been out in the media and it's very topical. It's something that recently happened. The Development Authority requested that the city convey the lot at the corner of Spring Street and Main for downtown development. It had something to do with the business incubator concept. Pam, would you tell us where you stand on that?
Well, right now, I've got lots of questions I need answered. First of all, that lot belongs to the city. $127,000 is what it was appraised for. And that is the people's money. The taxpayers paid for this property. They have some really good ideas with that, but I need to explore I need to ask more questions. What will happen in the future with that property if it does not work out the way we want it to? And be honest with you, I just found out about this on Thursday night.
Okay.
And I was not aware of what it entailed, but that's why I cannot say whether I am for or against it at this time, because I do need to explore some questions and get answers before I make a decision.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Ron, and you know, if you respond, we reduce another question on the back end. Ron, you are able to respond 1 minute, same question.
Thank you. The lot at the corner known as the DNL tire lot, of course, has been ready for something that happened for several years. When the Development Authority came to us and said that they had a program for this lot that would erect a 2 to 3 story building, which would bring in businesses, offices, and some tax money back to downtown. The highlight to this is that if we deed this property to them, they must develop it with a grant. If they don't get the grant, the property comes right back to the city. So it's a win-win situation for the citizens of Buckhannon. It will bring additional tax revenue to us. It will bring some added beauty in a new building downtown. And all in all, I can see where there is no fault with it whatsoever. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ron. The next question comes from the audience. It's from Carl Kalinich. And I'll ask Caden Cowger. Do you believe the current city council is overreached in passing ordinances?
Thank you, Carl, for the great question. Absolutely. I mean, we have seen multiple ordinances that have been created, I think personally, that have had a big negative effect on this community. I'll give you an example. Like, it was actually debated regarding, they were talking about animal control policy not long ago, that you could only have your dog tethered outside for no longer than 17 minutes. 17 minutes. Just at the very notion that you would somehow be penalized if you had your dog tethered outside for longer than 17 minutes, I think very well answers that question. This present city council, I feel some of the members of it have definitely overreached. I feel that they have been placing a bigger burden on a lot of the businesses that are here by wanting to expand the business and occupation tax, specifically that is going to be targeting a lot of the smaller businesses here. I think that even transitioning that into implementing a sales tax is going to also be a very big negative effect that's going to take place on the community, because that affects the consumers. And it doesn't matter what age you are when they implement a sales tax. You can be a young person that ends up going to the store and buying some type of service, and it affects you too. So thanks, I hope I answered your question.
Thank you. It's okay to clap, guys. I mean, for anybody. Okay, the next question comes from our audience, and I will direct it to C.J. Rylance. The question comes from Heather Schneider. I think Heather opened up a new business called Do Re Mi. And her question is, attracting businesses to move to Buckhannon seems a hot topic. How do you recommend encouraging and empowering local residents to create their own businesses and projects?
Well, I think we, first of all, need to invite people to and to come to Buchanan. If they're already here, let's think about what we can do to create a nurturing environment for businesses. The cost of doing business is a critical element, and if we want them to be in town, then we've got to keep the cost down, the taxes and fees. I recently did a pro forma on comparing if I moved our business outside of town to Tennerton with a friend of mine who has a business out there, and compared the utility bills and tax bills and whatnot. And my one building where the restaurant is, it's $7,300 a year in city taxes and fees. So you amortize that over 20 years where people look at develop a business plan, that's a significant amount of money.
Okay, thank you. Next question comes from William, it looks like Donner, I'm hoping I'm getting that right. And the question for John Waltz, John, when you're raising fees, and this means city council, raising fees and taxes on the citizens of Buchanan, why do we always compare Buchanan to larger cities that have more employment, more tax revenue and population? Why do we feel justified in raising fees and taxes when West Virginia is in a recession and many people in Buchanan are having a hard time paying their bills and buying food?
Yeah, I think that's a fair question, and as we get back to the business question of attracting business and trying to attract new entities, we have to be very careful about fees and about raising fees. Of course, on the flip side of that, a lot of people are interested in infrastructure improvements. I would certainly like to see our carryovers earmarked for infrastructure improvements. I think that that's one way we can kind of go about that. But as we get into looking at classes of our cities, that's really how you have to do it. You have to find like cities. And I think the city council has in the past tried to take certain sections of cities that are similar in size, similar in makeup, and try to make those fees similar. Of course, sometimes when they presented that, that's met with well, we're already at this place. And the same thing goes on with council salaries. I know that came up a few times. I'm certainly not in support of increased council salaries because, again, if you would compare it to similar sized cities, our council salaries are very, very competitive with those.
Thank you, John. The next question comes from Robert Rupp, and I'll direct it to what might have been one of his former students, but I'm not just picking on you. This one goes to Robbie Skinner, and the question from Robert Rupp, who knows something about politics: what do you find most unique about Buchanan?
You're not allowed to grade me on this. Buchanan is really, it's unlike a lot of other communities. Buchanan has a sense of place. You know you're here when you're here, and let me explain that. Buchanan has a culture that is nurturing. Buchanan has a culture that is friendly. We are, described a lot of times as everyone's hometown. A lot of people who come here either through West Virginia Wesleyan or with any of our large events like the Strawberry Festival, Buchanan welcomes them with open arms. And I think, there's a great video right now that's circulating that is 7 community organizations have put together or have funded it that talks about what Buchanan is. And it's narrated by someone who did not grow up here. And the success that he has found both in business and personally in our community among everyone.
Robbie, thank you. The next question, again from the audience, will go to Joe Shaw. We got to you. Well, it went that way and down this way. Joe, what opportunities do you see for the city and the county to share operation?
Would you repeat it?
What opportunities do the city and county have for shared operation?
The city and county for shared operation? I would think there are tremendous opportunities but to share operations. I would like to see a turn lane that will include part of the city of Buchanan and continue into Tennerton. I would like to see, like Dr. Reed wants to put people to walk, and I'd like to see a walking trail from South Buchanan to the middle school, where you could bike, also bike or walk or run or jog. I would like to see the city help maybe alleviate some of the school bus traffic in town and try to get more kids walking, and supervisory people to monitor them as they walk to school and home. I could think of a lot more. I've written them down, but I got a minute.
Okay, thank you. All right, next question. This will go to CJ. CJ, how would you prioritize the top 3 infrastructure issues you feel the city of Buchanan needs to address?
Top 3 infrastructure issues.
Priorities.
Well, I think right now, I believe currently the department heads write their own needs assessment, and I think it might be helpful to have someone from outside to come and evaluate, or at least assist in some of these needs assessments for each department. It's obviously important that we maintain the sewer plant, the water plant. We've heard about the price increases to make upgrades to those things, but I agree with what Robert Osborne said earlier, that sidewalks are critically important to make our community walkable, and the things that we separate ourselves from other communities revolve around quality of place, and sidewalks are an important aspect, and if we can do those things. And I also like the idea of extending the Riverwalk out towards the middle school and trying to connect places. Sorry.
Thank you. The next question comes from the audience. I'll direct it to Pam Kapari. It's from Scott Preston. Pam, what is your position on the Stockert Youth Center being funded by the city? And I've never seen a multiple choice, but we'll try this one. Pick one that you are most aligned with and defend. Continue current city management, outsource or sell to the YMCA or some other organization, eliminate the program and divest assets, or expand services and require partners to assist in management and cost. Or mostly, where do you stand on the issue, and how do you feel?
Well, I stand, we acquired the Stockert Youth Center from the County Commission. We took it over years ago, and I have been on that board since 2009, and I believe the city should take care of Stockert Youth Center. We got to look out for the future of children, and this is a safe place for children to go. We have mentoring programs, we have tutoring programs. Just this year alone, we had 365 kids in basketball programs. Now, if that's not successful to keep kids occupied and keep them off the streets, nothing is. And but actually, we use about, when it comes down to it, we use about 5% of our general fund that goes toward Stockert Youth Center. And we also get monies from Board of Education. We also get money from the County Commission. And they believe in Stockert Youth Center, and so do I. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. The next question comes from my Wesleyan student, and it's for Caden Calgren. Caden, as some of you might know, is soon to graduate from high school. And so a Wesleyan College student is asking you this question. What will you do when you graduate high school?
Well, hopefully I'll be serving on city council. No, well, I'll just tell you this, since you're a high schooler, I'll now that I answered that question, I'll sort of talk a little bit about youth here, but we have thousands upon thousands of young people that are leaving this state, and I'm going to be graduating with a lot of people here very shortly that are going to be leaving Buchanan. And a lot of them, even those who might want to settle here and maybe open up a business here in the future, are not going to be able to do that if we continue acting policies that are going to negatively affect the private sector in our community. And we have to make Buchanan a business-friendly place. We have to make it so we can get these new careers and new opportunities in here to hold our young people, or the future of Buchanan is not going to exist. So hopefully we can end up making Buchanan more business-friendly, one of the most pro-business cities in West Virginia. That's what I would love to see. And we can keep our young people right here at home. That's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question comes from our audience, and it's directed to Ron Pugh. From Cindy Fry. Ron, what was your most significant accomplishment in your last term?
I didn't hear the first part.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is from Cindy Fry. Ron, what was your most significant accomplishment in your last term?
Oh, gee. I think probably the most thing I'm proud of getting done would be handicapped playground equipment at the North Buchanan Park and the new playground equipment at the city park. We have so little facilities and so many kids, and there's talk of even a splash pad. I believe that all we can give the children of our city will keep them from doing drugs, keep them involved with the Stockard Youth Center, keep them involved with youth basketball. Any program we can have for our children is beneficial, and I think that the playground equipment has to be one of my best ones. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
Could someone else respond to that?
Yes, you may respond. We'll just be removing a question on the back end, but that's quite all right.
Yeah, I'm not. During the last few months, the city did this for me. They paved my street.
Please use the mic. They can't hear you.
They paved my street, Barber. Very nicely paved. They replaced some water lines from the middle of the street to the inner side of my sidewalk. Took out about this long of a piece of lead pipe. I don't know why the lead pipe's doing in there or not. And a city building inspector saved me a lot of grief with a contractor. Now that city building inspector needs to be paid, of course, but he saved me a lot of grief.
All right, thank you. Well, the question was, what was your most significant accomplishment? But I realize that you haven't run for office, so that was one of the important issues you wanted to communicate.
Thank you for acknowledging that I haven't run before and I don't know that much.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on down the list here. Let's see, there's Joe Shaw. Robbie Skinner. Would you replace the B&O tax with a sales tax that could be paid by a broader base of people? Or would you keep it the way it is? Or what is the best solution for taxes in the city?
In October, City Council was kind enough to offer a town hall forum down at the American Legion Hall. And on behalf of the chamber, members, including myself, were there to help the city see what a negative impact increasing the B&O tax and expanding the B&O tax could have on some of our smaller downtown businesses. Right now, we have a $1 million exemption, meaning city businesses that gross over $1 million pay the current B&O tax. That's not that many businesses. Everyone south of that is exempt. There are also other exemptions. The city, we've got to tread lightly when it comes to our tax plan. You know, we have to have a tax structure. That is certainly true. Am I in favor of a sales tax? Not at this time. I'm more interested in looking at the B&O tax and making it, you know, making it a tax that that our businesses can live with, and that will provide the city with the infrastructure and the money that it needs.
Okay, Robbie, thank you. Yes, CJ, you can respond.
Do we need a sales tax? No. Should we expand the B&O tax? No. Part of why I'm up here is because I can't understand why in a surplus environment we are talking about increasing taxes and fees. It doesn't take, if you want to see the end result of this, just drive up 79 to downtown Clarksburg or Fairmont, and you'll see what they are left with is providing services with less folks to pay the bill. So they create more taxes and fees to cover expenses, which send more businesses packing. When I was in Fairmont, they passed the $1 a week for employees in the city. And, Morgantown and Huntington have them. When you talk about B&O taxes now, next time look at your electric bill, your gas bill, and you'll see municipal surcharge or excise tax. Last month, I paid $142 in city taxes on my electric bill. So the answer is no.
Thank you, CJ. Well, we have two responses. Okay, this is hard to keep track of, but I'll do it. First, Pam.
Excuse me. I'm not in favor of the 1% sales tax, but I am in favor in staying with the current B&O. I do not want to hurt the small business person here, because if we did not have the small business owners here in town, we would not have the vibrant downtown that we have right now. So you've got to look at things that for people that's been here for years and years and years. That's why we're still have a successful downtown, and I will not vote for something that's going to hurt them. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam.
All right. And I'll just go ahead and tell you this. Robbie was talking a little bit about how they were having a town hall event where they were addressing the business and occupation tax. And one of the things that was stated, I believe it was by Ron Pugh, was that he didn't know why there were exemptions in the B&O tax in the first place for businesses that make under $1 million. Well, the reason why there were exemptions placed in the B&O tax is to protect small businesses, because it's an unnecessary tax. It doesn't need to be expanded. The reasoning that was given by the members of council who supported it was to establish fairness in the community, while also acknowledging that even though it would be placing a bigger burden on the small businesses here, it would not be bringing in much additional revenue. Now, if it's an unnecessary burden, why in the world would you want to expand that onto businesses that are already having enough financial problems the way that it is? Especially when West Virginia is in the middle of a recession, you do not expand taxes and try to, establish something that is completely unnecessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Okay. You may respond. I've got some really good questions here. But
I don't know if people know how many of our community are retired persons on fixed incomes like myself. I don't know if that gets considered in raising of license and fees and taxes and so on. That should be considered when you look at our community and how many people are retired on fixed incomes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving down the line, I've got one more to ask of Robbie and John and Ron, if I've kept track the right way. Okay. Here's one for Ron Pugh. Ron, do you think the city should play a role in fair and affordable housing in the city limits? And what should that be? And in that context, do you think a homeless shelter is needed in Buchanan?
Fair and affordable housing. We certainly need some fair and affordable housing, especially for people that are the young professionals that are graduating college, and there's really not any up-to-date housing for them. Let's put it that way, up-to-date. All of our rental units in the city right now are 50, 60 years old, most of them. And a young professional coming out of college with their dream place of living would want something a way bit more modern. What was the second part of that question?
How about a homeless shelter?
Homeless shelter. Wow, that's That's another situation. I think the homeless in Buchanan probably averages between 12 and 13 people. And most of them right now congregate down at Jawbone Park. And I've met with some of them. I know some of them. Matter of fact, the young boy that just had his leg cut off was one of our homeless people down there. They don't work. They don't want to work. They do drugs. And they harass people down there at the Jawbone. Now, a true homeless person would want to better themselves and would want to go into the community and give something back for what they're going to get from it. I do not think we have a homeless problem in Buchanan.
Thank you, Ron. Caden, respond.
I'd just like to say, when I first announced that I was going to be running for city council, we had approximately 7.1% unemployment rating, somewhere around there. Well, since I announced, our unemployment rating has now skyrocketed to 9.9%. I was going to say, if we keep establishing these and raising these taxes, Record Delta just reported today that they're wanting to, the city was liking to hike the sewer bills by 20%. They've raised, they're wanting to, like I said, expand business and occupation tax, maybe put a sales tax on everybody. If you keep taxing people to death and they're not going to have much money left, you're going to expand that unemployment rating even greater, and then we might need a homeless shelter. So hopefully we don't get to that point. But, it's very, very concerning when you look at the unemployment rating that we presently have in Buchanan, and that's only going to get bigger unless we get a change in there. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, several folks have to play catch-up here, including Robbie and John, so I'm going to allow them to do that. John, are you in favor of the college zone that was proposed some time ago? And what are the pros and cons of such a proposition?
Yeah, I mean, I think, first of all, for clarity's sake, I work at the college. I have a professional position there, and in a government discussion about that, I would certainly be willing to give my opinion, but in that case, I'm not sure that I would vote. I would always want to make sure, like I would hope any council member would, that I didn't engage in a conflict of interest about that. Benefits of the college zone certainly would be certain types of expansion. As we've talked about our charter and the difficulty with making changes to our charters we've tried to do before, there are things in there about the height of buildings. There are things in there about being drunk in saloons. Our charter refers to saloons, if you've never read it. Terminology and some things that really is quite difficult for us to change. So I think the benefit of different types of zones, not just a college zone, are that they can, enable certain types of expansion. I can see that others could see something like that as oppressive or as someone trying to expand out, and I would hope it would only be a pro-business partnership kind of thing.
Okay, thank you. Robbie Skinner. I got one for you here. Should the city of Buchanan have representation at Create Buchanan meetings and actively participate? And would you support the city providing funds to groups like Create Buchanan if those funds are earmarked for specific projects?
Yes. Create Buchanan, as well as other organizations within our community, have done a tremendous job in helping to move portions of our community ahead. I'm proud to say that I've been a part of Create Buchanan since its beginnings around 2009, when it started with the 2015 plan. Create Buchanan is a lively conversation that a lot of folks here in the room attend on a weekly basis. It has given the city an expanded job in Park, Festival Fridays, little free libraries, and also the establishment of public art and the art gallery on Main Street, all positive parts of our community. Those parts of our community make Buchanan what it is. So absolutely, I will, if elected, continue to be a part of Create Buchanan. I am a member of Create Buchanan, and I hope to see it flourish in the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next question is for Pam Kapari. Pam, Stock Abuse Center has been an asset to our community. We've been very involved for many years. And it seems to have support, and it seems to be organized, and it helps start this on a positive journey. On the other end of the spectrum, the Upshur Senior Center is another incident that provides important services to a fairly large constituency of elderly people like me. And recently, senior centers statewide have been hit by large budget cuts, 7%, and it looks like there are more to come. And as many of you may know, the funding that they get from the federal government under the Older Americans Act has not been changed in over a decade, while the cost of food and delivering food has gone up. If you take all of those burdens and look at the vital aspects of that institution, they're going to have difficulty functioning going forward. So how could the city perhaps work with the county and other organizations to make sure that we can sustain the efforts of our Upshur Senior Center?
We are all, every one of us out here are an aging popularity. And we have to take note of what goes on at the senior center and what it entails. And we also need to take part in, keeping the funding going for the senior center. If we don't have the seniors around, we don't have any mentors, and we need that for the children in this community. Also, I feel we just give a gift to the senior center, and I think we need to also put that in from now on, because I didn't realize how much people were involved over there. So yes, I'm in favor to donate money, put that on my mind every year. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question is for C.J. Robbins. Well, as you mentioned, the city has a large surplus that can be put to use to fund economic development, infrastructure, lots of things. So, where do you feel the city of Buchanan should concentrate funding to get the biggest bang for the buck?
Well, that's a good question. I think they do a great job now. I think their department heads are all great. I've collaborated with Jerry Arnold on lots of projects. They seem to have a lot of things in the pipeline, finishing job on the parking at the North Spring Street parking lot, completed. It looks great. So, in a lot of ways, this thing is working well, and it's fundamentally because I believe that they aren't suffering the issues that our surrounding cities have of no money. So I would concentrate on continuing to do things that improve the quality of life and attract people, especially retired people, that can come to town, a safe, affordable, welcoming community that makes a point to include anyone that wants to participate.
Thank you.
Could I say something on that?
Let me see, Joe, yes, you still have another question or response coming.
Okay. I've talked to some city workers, and one said, I haven't got a raise in 3 years. My evaluations are always positive. So we have a surplus. Would a raise for our city employers be in line with part of that surplus? And it just seems like I've worked places where when they get some income, you know what, they rather than raise salaries, sometimes they let salaries remain stagnant. They build things, put in new sidewalks, do this, do that, and people's salaries are somewhat minimal. So possibly we should look into raising some pay for city workers.
Okay. Robbie Skinner. I think this is even everyone up at this worries you the most about the future of our city?
The fact that we don't have a lot of young professionals here right now. We've gotten together once to talk about forming a young professionals group here. There were about 15 at the table. And if we don't find a way to be attractive to younger professionals, to bring business here, to help their businesses flourish here, we're in trouble. We have an aging population, and it's not being supported on the back end by a lot of young professionals. I graduated from West Virginia Wesleyan in 2011, and there are few, if any, of my classmates still even in Upshur, Lewis, Barber, Randolph County area. I think that's what we have to tackle. It's a complex issue, but we've got to figure out a way to be attractive to those folks.
Okay. We've come up to the final question, and I will have something to say at the conclusion, but the final question is open, the same one for all the candidates. And that question is, what do you stand for? What's your platform? And why do you feel you're the best candidate for this position? So I'll start with Joe.
There's a good chance this will separate me from the rest of them. I am a great advocate of freedom of religion. City councils over West Virginia have taken some measures to deny freedom of religion. I'm also in favor of business people being able to accept jobs with whom they desire to accept jobs. In some places, they have a judge has said, oh yes, you will take this job or we'll fine you. I had a guy that kept my car going for years, but one day, and he was a great mechanic, one day he told me, he said, I'm not going to work on your car anymore. It's worn me out. He had a right to do that. So businesses, that you want to be pro-business, tell them that they can do jobs for who they want to and don't have to do with who they don't want to.
Right down the line here, CJ, what do you stand for? What's your platform, and why do you feel you're the best candidate for the position?
You know, we are all in this together, and we need to be able to sit down with anyone that wants to work together for successful outcomes. The number one obstacle to getting things done in city government or any organization is personality conflicts and turf issues. We need to step outside that, be willing to sit down with anyone that is willing to focus on successful outcomes. You know, I use the analogy of a lifeboat. You know, if we were all lost at sea together, everyone would be trying to make everyone else successful. And to me, that's a definition of leadership. And it's ironic that we're in a situation we're currently in where it's rather divisive and whatnot. But at some point, you have to step up and put all those things aside and the insults and whatnot, and character attacks, and move forward.
Thank you, CJ. Going down the line.
Well, I think my platform starts with support for small business, and that starts with no expansion of the B&O tax and no sales tax. Actually better incentivizing things for small businesses. Second, collaboration and intelligent discourse. Aren't we all encouraged by the kind of conversation we've heard here tonight? Isn't this the kind of conversation we want to hear? This will move our city forward. Thirdly, fair and equal treatment of all who visit this city and who live in this city. I am proudest of a resolution that I passed with council members up here that prevents discrimination within the city and encourages it in businesses, and I will defend that with all that I have. And the health and well-being of our youth in particular. Expanding beyond drug problems also to health issues and obesity, and providing healthier alternatives. Why I'm the right person for the job is because of my experience. I've spent all of my professional life attracting visitors and people to live and work in this city, and I'll continue to do that as a member of council. Thank you.
I'm a lifelong resident of Mercer County and Buchanan, and ever since I got out of the military, I have worked in some way or another with people. I served as county clerk and dealt with people every day. I helped them. I was not a politician. I am not a politician. I am a public servant. I spent the time in between the county clerk's office and city council running elections, meeting with people, printing ballots, and also doing everything that is possible to ensure our freedom through elections. I am most interested in helping the youth of our city. I do think we have a drug problem that you may not see, but I know there are 3 different cartels coming in, one from the West Coast, one from Chicago, one from the Philadelphia area. And each one of those cartels bring a different drug to our city. We need to crack down. We need to put our youth that are addicted to drugs into programs that will help them, not jails that would put them in there with other criminals and just give them a negative outlook for the rest of their lives. Thank you. I wholeheartedly and truly love this community to the point where when I talk about it, it's emotional. This is a great place to live. This is a great place to do business. And I think you want a council member that loves it wholeheartedly to make decisions for the community. I also believe you want a council member who's heavily involved in the community. I've spent my professional career being a public servant, serving on a variety of community organizations that all try to make Buchanan a better place for everyone in this room and beyond. I can promise you that with every decision made, I will have Buchanan in my heart and on my mind, because at the end of the day, CJ's right. We're all in this together. We all live here. And everybody, I believe everybody here is interested in doing what's best for our community. Thank you very much.
First of all, I want to thank all of you that showed up tonight and be concerned with what's going to happen in the future with Buchanan. I thank you for trusting me for 3.5 terms. And to me, I'm doing what people are asking me. I am here for all of you, not just a group, not just for 1 or 2 people. I have a good listening ear. I might not be a good speaker, but I will listen to you, and I will try my best to do what is the right thing for everyone. I believe we need to have a progressive town, but do it slowly and be fiscally responsible. But most of all, I stand for the children that's growing up here. I'm very, very concerned about the drug issue going on here. When my kids were in high school, it was marijuana you had to worry about. Now it's heroin. And I also believe that we need to start maybe a program for drug addiction. And I'm sorry, I'll finish here. And I would like to get something started here in Buchanan because it's not going to get any better. It's going to get worse. And I appreciate that you come out and vote for me on May the 10th. Thank you.
Well, one thing they have to remember is that you can't tax people into prosperity. I mean, all these new tax increases that the city is going to put on the people here, be it the B&O tax expansion, which is actually a new tax that will be placed on small businesses, if you're going to be fruitful about it, or implementing the sales tax, which is going to affect all of Buchanan's consumers, also the people who live outside the city limits, who shop at places like Walmart. I mean, those are issues that are very important that you have to focus on in this upcoming election. You support tax increases when it's been admitted to be unnecessary, especially when the city has a $1.25 million surplus that's clearly unneeded. Or are you going to support for more of the same policies? And I'm also going to say I'm a fan of the First Amendment, I don't believe in supporting policies that are going to target or lead to the targeting of religious institutions. And most importantly, one of the main reasons why I decided to run is because we have to bring jobs into Buchanan. Like I said, we have a dwindling youth population here, and it's not only in Buchanan, it's in the entire state of West Virginia. And if we want to see the future of Buchanan remain secure, we have to create new job opportunities, new career opportunities for the people in this community. That's why I decided to run, and hopefully we can take back our town. Thank you.
Before our candidates step down and we conclude the evening, I just want to say a few things. First, I want to thank everyone who took the time to participate in tonight's forum, from our candidates to all of you who took the time and are concerned enough to come out. I hope we delivered on our outcomes, and at least at minimum, everyone learned something about the candidates, the issues, and the process. The most important thing to take away is that everyone in this room, individually, has a voice and can make a difference in our city and our community. Whether you vote or you get involved in many organizations and opportunities for service, collectively, you all, we all, represent a powerful force for change and the betterment of the place we live. Thanks and good night.